Hi, everyone. Welcome to our new interview series with the artists of Pivot Skateboard Deck Art. We're bringing you this series as we get ready to take the exhibit online. I'm Liz. I'm the curator here at the Center of Southwest Studies, and I'm with Amy, who's the curatorial assistant at the Center of Southwest Studies. And today we're joined by Duane Koyawena, Hopi artist and Pivot curator. Thank you, Duane, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And we're going to just jump right into some questions.
Cool, sounds good.
Thanks for coming on today. We're really happy to use you as our guinea pig. Thank you so much. So our first question is, how did you get the idea for the Pivot show?
The idea for the Pivot show was it's pretty neat. Landis and I, Landis Bahi, the curator for this exhibit, we were hanging out one day and we were kind of thinking about, like, you know, we wanted to do something different. We wanted to do something unique. We wanted to do something to please the eye of others. We wanted to get outside of canvas paintings because he and I are artists. So we were like, what else can we do to do something different? And around that time, I had started exploring on skateboards, and for myself, they had became pretty popular. So I got a lot of positive feedback at a couple shows with them, and I was actually working on one when we were talking about this. And he had mentioned to me that when he lived in Vegas, he experienced a time where he went to a skateboard deck art show, and it was really neat. It was really attractive. So then I mentioned to him, I said, let's do that. Let's do something like that. And I kind of mentioned, we could do like basically like a Native American twist. And I started mentioning all the fellow artists that we knew, that we have connected with before in the past. So kind of put that out there and said, we could have all these artists, we could all come together and do something really strong and powerful, represent our tribes and our culture. So we put our heads together, and we were going to make it happen. And the first place we were going to do it at was at Tatfu, which is the tattoo shop that Landis Bahi works at. And his partner, Nick Lawrence, he had to run it by him as well to make sure it was cool. And their shop is really elegant. It's nice, it's contemporary, it has a good feel to it. And we had just put our minds together on what kind of music we were going to have. We started giving calls to some of the fellow artists that we had in mind. And I think we only had like 13 artists at that time. And it was going to be a one-day event. And I mean, it's kind of funny because with all that, we didn't have no idea that it was going to go any further than that night. And so we did it, and we made a lot of noise with it, and it was a big success. We had a lot of people that came through, and we had a fun time. It was a good show, and that night we were pretty lucky that we had the director of the Museum of Northern Arizona who came, and from that point on, she had asked us if we'd be interested in bringing it to the museum here in Flagstaff at the Museum of Northern Arizona. So that was super cool. And one thing I like to elaborate on that is I remember mentioning to Landis about how really neat it was, because I feel like for a lot of artists, the strive is to try to get something in a museum, try to have your own exhibit. And I was telling him, this could be it right here. And my vision from there just kind of expanded, and I'm like, man, it could be so much more than just that one night. So yeah, it really took off, and it did well at Museum of Northern Arizona. And that's where we met Jeannie Bracco and Jack Towns. I have a lot of love for them and appreciation for them for helping us get to the Center of Southwest Studies, and they have a lot of faith in us. So it's been a really good journey. So
Yes, Jeannie and Jack are the best.
Yeah, good
So
people to know.
just to follow up on that, what does pivot mean to you?
Um, Man, we Landis and I had the hardest time trying to figure out what we were going to name this thing. And the thing we were focusing in on is that this show was not going to be about skateboarding. I mean, we're using skateboard decks, but it's not going to be about skateboarding. We had an experience, Landis and I, at the Heard Museum at an art show, at the art show there. And one thing that sparks from that is that we were questioning why some of the art that was there that was really nice and caught our eyes didn't get no prizes. And a gentleman had told us that he feels that a lot of people, like the judges that are, you know, older generations, have a hard time transitioning into contemporary works, new looks. And I think it's happening now. I mean, I think we're starting to evolve in that. But that was one thing that really struck me, was like, man, like, you know, like you got something really nice over here, something very contemporary, something unique, that's, you know, a lot of detail. And this wins over here, that's, you know, I mean, everybody has their own flavors and tastes, but I was really struck by that. So when Landis and I were trying to figure out this name, that was one thing that I was thinking of, is the whole evolution of artwork and contemporary looks. But I also, I mean, for myself, I would say I'm pretty traditional, Hopi. So I incorporate a lot of my culture into my work, but I kind of put it in a new perspective. I mean, a lot of people say that I use a lot of bright colors, and my styles are pretty unique. And I mean, I paint different things, and I mean, I do shoes and other things. So I'm trying to think of all that, and I wanted to really display the fact that we're utilizing our traditions and cultures into something modern today. So Landis has a board that he called Pivot, and it basically just gives a blueprint of that whole process of the beginning evolving to something new. And I just kind of was like, why don't we just call it Pivot? And so that was it. And thinking about, I mean, for myself, I live here in Flagstaff, and our reservation is probably like an hour and a half northeast from Flagstaff. And it's a pretty unique feeling of going out there and getting involved in everything, like ceremonies and stuff like there. And you know, you're in it, you experience it, it's done, and then after that I come back to Flagstaff and I clock in to work. And I mean, nobody really knows about what goes on out there, and it's just like almost like I live two different lives. So it's like I'm going back and forth, I'm pivoting around this whole center. And so that was one thing we really wanted to incorporate in today's society for Native Americans that live in the city, is that we both go back and forth, and we try to live both lives. And so that was an idea. So I mean, it's kind of like we're just pivoting around and doing our culture and doing life in the city as well. So that was how we ended up really narrowing down to why we call it Pivot, and really what it means to me. So yeah.
Cool.
And so how did you first get into creating art?
Oh man, that's a long story too. But I guess I mean, my sister always tells me that I inherited my dad's talent. My dad was a very talented artist, and as a kid, I used to like to watch him draw and sketch things and ask him to draw this and that. And as I got older, and I can recall like middle school and high school, my art teachers kind of just giving me projects and stuff to kind of explore, I guess, the talent I had. And I mean, I had no idea of what was going on. I had no idea that, you know, X amount of years later, I'm going to be doing my own exhibit or getting artwork to, you know, different people. But it started, I guess, in elementary, middle school, high school. I recall like the janitors at our high school used to always try to be like, hey, can I have that? Or some of my art teachers would ask if they could keep some of the projects that I did to kind of use or show. But after high school, I kind of fell in a slump. I got in a pretty dark hole. I had my struggles with addiction. And at that time, I was producing artwork, but I wasn't in any mindset of doing it professionally or selling it. I just wanted to make some money here and there. But after a while, a lot of family kept telling me that I had a lot of talent. One of my cousins, one of my brothers, I remember would call me I mean, I was in a dark spot at the time, and he said that I had a lot of talent in my hands. He's like, don't throw that away. And I mean, all that stuff went one ear out the other until, you know, finally I got my act together. And which was in 2008, I sobered up. And about the year 2013, I remember a cousin of mine telling me, you know, you should really try to get into an art show. Your work is really good. And of course, I had that low self-esteem. I didn't believe in myself. I was like, nah, nobody's gonna want my stuff. And I did my first show in 2013 over here at the Museum of Northern Arizona. And it kind of started doing its thing, and the wheels started to get rolling. And I would say ever since then, I mean, it's definitely evolved into, you know, learning about how to, you know, manage your business or create a business out of your artwork, and knowing how to push, and then making a lot of different connections. And it kind of just started to bloom into something bigger. And I mean, here we are today. So it definitely was a journey. And I mean, it still is. It's kind of funny that, I mean, a lot of people have told me that I've done big things with my art, but I mean, it's like, man, I still believe there's more out there. So of course I'm going to keep trying to go. So yeah, it's definitely been fun. It's been fun being a role model to other artists who are trying to figure out their path too, and how to become a successful artist. But yeah, it's amazing. A lot of gratitude in what I have. So.
Nice. And what does it mean to be a native artist to you?
Native artists, I didn't really develop the idea till, I would say, like maybe 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I would say, when I started really recognizing my stuff, kind of getting out more, more eyes kind of on my work. But after a while, I started to realize that as a Hopi artist, I really started to learn about my culture through art, really. Started learning about a lot of meanings, a lot of the different symbols, everything, a lot about the ceremonies and the culture. So with all that generating and coming to my understanding and just learning, it was kind of like I started realizing that our culture is very rich and beautiful, and I wanted to start sharing that. And for me as a Hopi artist, I call myself a Hopi artist, but I feel like I can't call myself a Hopi artist unless I contribute to my culture. So I want to be able to be in the tradition and the culture and experiencing all that, but yet still doing my artwork and being able to back it up, the understandings. Like if you were to ask me what certain things were, I want to be able to give you the full explanation for it. So with all that kind of building, I kind of started looking at a lot of artists who have really had their journeys, like Michael Caboti and Neil David Sr., all those guys who really made a name for themselves in Hopi art. I kind of want it to be that in today's society and today's day of, like, you know, if you ask who's who's one of the well-known Hopi artists today, for my name to be one of them. And I mean, to share what we have as Hopi, I have a strong drive for that. So yeah, I would say that's kind of what it means for me to be a Hopi artist. Continuing
the tradition.
Yeah.
Okay, one more question for you. Sorry, Amy.
That's it?
Now that you've you've worked with Pivot a few places. You had it at Tatfu and M&A and Duane College, and now at the center. And you've worked on the Forces with Our People at the Museum of Northern Arizona. Where do you see yourself going next in the museum field? So now you're not just an artist, you're working on being a museum professional too.
Oh man, it's of course, like I was saying, how I want it to keep growing. I mean, being at Center of Southwest Studies is great. It's fantastic. Like it's amazing. But again, of course, there's like other places like, man, I want to keep going. I want to keep building. I want to keep climbing. I mean, anywhere overseas would be awesome. A city in like New York, not like New York, or a big city in like San Francisco, or, you know, someplace like that. Yeah, I would love to take this that way, or those areas. And not just for me, I think for all the artists that are involved in it. Like, I think it's pretty cool to be able to, like, not just me go, it's all of us being able to go and displaying the talents that we have out here, and kind of displaying, you know, everybody's talent. That's a big thing of why Landis and I were like, let's get all these other guys, because I mean, if we can make this show a success, I mean, it won't just be ours, it would be, you know, many others. And I mean, all these other guys have strong platforms, but I mean, getting into all these museums, it's a pretty neat experience. So I mean, anywhere, I mean, too, but I'm super grateful. So I just want to keep the wheel rolling and keep it going. So yeah, it's been super fun.
I know we're excited to see where you guys go, and we're excited to just see it up at the center whenever we're able to. But we know that you guys have amazing potential, and we're really lucky to have been able to host it this early for you guys. We just want to say thank you for joining us today and chatting with us. Everyone watching, please follow Duane on Instagram at Duane_Koyawena_arts. Check out all of his art and all of the amazing projects he's working on. We, at the Center of Southwest Studies, you can also follow us. In coming weeks, we're going to be doing more artist interviews with different Pivot artists. Next up is Landis, the other creator of Pivot. And you can follow us on Facebook at Center of Southwest Studies, and Instagram at Center SW Studies FLC, all one word. We would also like to give a huge shout out to the LPEA and our Giving Tuesday crowdfunding campaign supporters. Honestly, without your support, we wouldn't have been able to host Pivot at the Center of Southwest Studies, and we're so happy to be able to bring Pivot to the Center of Southwest Studies and Fort Lewis College, and honestly can't wait to see where you guys go. So
yes, we're excited. Thank you everyone for joining us. Thanks, Duane.
Thanks, Duane.